Welcome to the Early Wedge Tuesday Best Bet Show. I am your host, Eric Cohen. Thanks to all who've asked the last couple months about this show returning, both on social media and, of course, Sportsline's Discord server. I'm really glad to be a part of it again this year, and, of course, part of the expanded brand, also including M Squared and Rick. Now, if you're watching on the Sportsline YouTube channel, you're in the right place. If you're watching on the Golf on CBS channel, the show will be simulcasted there for the next couple weeks, but make sure to subscribe to the Sportsline channel if you haven't already. We are here to have some fun and to make some picks. So let's get right to it with the best crew in golf betting. We have the host of the Early Edge. He's on every show on this brand. He's giving out winners left and right on X, the one, the only Sia Nejad. We have the golf genius who taught me more in doing, 30 shows last year than anybody about the brand. It is the great Patrick McDonald from CBS Sports. And then, new to the brand, is actually a guy that I have followed for years. He's on PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM. He's on BetMGM, writes his column there every week. And now he is on the Early Wedge. It is Jason Sobel. All right, Jason, welcome. We got to say, you're the new guy to the crew here. Just tell us, what's it feel like to be a part of the Early Wedge brand?
Boys, I am so pumped to be here with you guys. I know you guys are all having fun. You got all your inside jokes before we hopped on. By the time we finish this pod, we're going to have our own inside jokes. I'm with the crew now. I can't wait to get going.
Patrick, you and I have not been on a show in, 6 months. Good to see you again. What are we going to learn from you tonight?
The best 6 months of my life, EC, let me tell you.
I'm sure.
No, but you look great. I was a little surprised by that intro music. That was a little new, nice touch there by producer Josh. What are we going to learn tonight? I'm not quite sure. I think we're going to learn maybe about Sia's workout regimen. The arms on the thumbnail from this guy and his professional headshots were just unbelievable, but maybe a little golf intertwined also.
Sia, speaking of golf intertwined, you've been giving out winners and picks left and right on X. So is the pressure mounted now that you're on this show and you have to give out winners on Tuesday nights now?
I wouldn't say left and right. I did hit Ludwig a couple of weeks ago at 25-1, so that was nice. My matchups could be better. My nationality plays could be better, but here's the good news. I've got all of you. I've got Mike McClure. I've got Rick Gehman. I've got this whole Early Wedge cast to sort of bounce stuff off of. Jason stole the word right out of my mouth. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to win a lot of bets. We're going to make some money, but we're going to have a lot of fun, and I think that's what this Early Wedge thing is going to be all about. Very excited.
All right, let's get to storylines now. The tour last week moved away from my side of the country. I know this East Coast bias on the show is extreme, but yeah. Patrick, your storyline is quite simple.
Yeah, thank God we are moving to Florida. Not only because the golf courses, right? You get the TPC Sawgrass coming up. I think Valspar is a great venue also, API, and this week at PGA National, although they kind of, dummied it down a little bit by switching the par 5 10th, formerly a par 4. Not a big fan of that. But there's nothing really better than waking up in the morning, 7 a.m. in Florida, a lot of water, and you scroll to the bottom of the PGA Tour app and your smart players are already there. Nothing better in the world. And so I'm excited for golf to finish on time, for everyone to get their rounds in, hopefully, and for golf to finally be back on the East Coast.
By the way, that starts at 4 a.m. my time, so I'm not going to be up early on Thursday and Friday. I'm glad for you guys on the East Coast. Jason, PGA National, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've been here a bunch of times. First of all, I want to say that, it's just a shame that we didn't start the show last week. I know we were all on Brian Campbell at this time last week, and we were all going to just crush it and knock it out of the park with Campbell, but oh well, we'll have to go pick some winners this week instead. I've covered this event at PGA National many, many times. It's actually one of my favorite events out there, but my storyline this week is I need it to be harder. From 2004 to 2020, we only had 3 winning scores of 270 or better. From 2021 to last year, 4 events, all 4 of them were 270 or better. Doesn't look like the wind's going to blow. The rough isn't as thick as it used to be. The greens are softer. I'm disappointed. They call it the bear trap. It's more like the boar trap. No, not like wild boar. It's boring. Come on, man. I want to see these guys suffer a little bit. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that. I'm guessing winning score somewhere in the mid-teens, maybe even high teens again this week.
Wow, the boar trap. Sobel's coming out firing already in storylines. Sia, you are great, as I talked about earlier, on the social media, giving out live picks. Why this week as well is a good opportunity.
What's interesting too is on Sunday we have that live show, which is going to be around like that 1 o'clock time frame, where I'll be joined by a few of this team to talk like what's happening on Sunday with maybe some late afternoon matchups, obviously some live outrights and things of that nature. But I think this is a really good tournament for live betting opportunities for two reasons. One is this, it's true. Like this course, like Jason said, it's not going to be as hard as like those versions we saw pre, 2021 and earlier. And I see Joseph Boza says typically winning score -6 to -12. Vegas, I believe, has this line at like 15 or 16 to Jason Sobel's point. So this is not going to be like a birdie fest, but it's not going to be that hyper challenging course, especially with the wind likely not blowing. With all that said, there's a lot of issues that you can get into. A lot of great players, a lot of great ball strikers are going to find themselves in the water. There's going to be a lot of fluctuation on the leaderboard. And when you don't have a Scotty Scheffler and a Xander and a Cantlay and a Morikawa and some of those hot names at the top or big names at the top, I think you have a lot of potential fluctuation on that leaderboard, so much so that I think we can catch some live bets. Guys that are maybe 6 back after day one, 7 back after day one, and a bunch of like alleged no names at the top. I think we could see the board really flip-flop, and it gives us an opportunity to maybe take a 40, 50, 60, 70 to 1 shot on a Thursday or Friday night.
If you've watched this show over the last few years, we have the auto fade list. That will be back later in the show. This tournament is full. If you look at the top of the board of this tournament, it's like the auto fade list. Like, seriously. Well, and my story, it's true. Well, the top of the board finally break their collective winless droughts. So let me run it down for you. Shane Lowry hasn't won an individual event on U.S. soil since 2015. By the way, that was only one in the U.S. individual event. I want to make that clear. Last PGA Tour regular season win. Regular season. I'm not talking about the fall. Sung J M 2020. Russ Henley 2017. Daniel Berger 2021. All right, Sepp won last month. We'll forget him. Taylor Pendrith won in 2024. Keith Mitchell 2019. And then Denny McCarthy and Minwoo Lee never won on the PGA Tour. This is a weird tournament.
Just
not
taking
the best
out
strength.
half the schedule for some of those guys.
But seriously, though, like these guys don't win in the regular season. This is why, well, either they're going to break that drought or we're going to go in different directions. But first, let's start off with first-round leaders. And there is no one better that I know in the first-round leader market than Sia Nejad. So why don't you start us off?
All right, I kind of flooded the market here with 4 first-round leaders. Sometimes I'll even drop a 5th in here, but I've got 4. Oh, this is such a nice graphic from Josh.
Wow.
Props to producer Josh. Everybody in the chat, give him props, hit the like button, do all of those things. I got Seb Straka. I've got at 45 to 1. Denny McCarthy at 55 to 1. Hodges and Gerard both at 70 to 1. I was debating between having Denny at 55 and Daniel Berger at 45. These are all morning tee times, but I will say this. I don't think the bias toward morning is going to be as prolific as it normally is. I mean, I do think the afternoon wind is going to blow a little bit harder, but we're talking like really just like not much here when it comes to wind gusts and wind. But anyway, these are all morning tee times. We know these guys, particularly when it comes to Sepp Straka, these guys can spike, whether it's for a round or whether it's 4 rounds. I like how Denny McCarthy's game has been trending. We'll talk about him more later. I love how Hodges is with the ball striking and the putter. So he could absolutely pop for a round. And Ryan Gerard is a guy that is really coming around, rates out really, really well for me. And I think in really all markets, including DFS, Gerard is a very interesting play. So that's those guys both at 70 to 1.
So, Patrick, we know it's like you're on the Denny McCarthy train this week. And I don't know, is that a new Patrick staple? By the way, I did bet Grayson Sig last week in honor of you and doing this show. Nice. And he finished top 20 where I bet him. So that was great. All right, so you're agreeing with Sia that you're going Denny in your FRLs.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Last time he was playing, I think Denny McCarthy was the first round leader with the Scotty Schefflers of the world, with the not Xander Schauffele of the world, with the Rory McIlroys of the world. So, and that was on a golf course that is not made for Denny McCarthy. You get him back on a shorter track where you got to put the ball in the fairway. The iron play has been awesome so far this year. Contended not only there at Torrey Pines, but also at Wailea. He was the 36-hole leader. So he's been getting off to fast starts, which is good. So I like him at 55 to 1. If I like him for the tournament, got to play him first round leader too. Joey Highsmith, I think the switch from the West Coast is only going to do him well. The ball striking has been pretty solid over the last month. Remember, this guy was, I don't know, like a top 10 guy during the fall. This has kind of fall field-ish vibes to it outside some of those names at the top. And 100 to 1 for a guy who's hitting it well. I think the switch to Bermuda is going to be better. And then the French play of the week, Antoine Walker-Rosner, 125 to 1. All first round so far in 2025 have been in the 60s. Hitting the ball great. Putter's a problem, not going to lie. But who knows? For 125, I'll give it a chance.
Speaking of 125, Jason, you have one on there as well, but you're also picking, so you're going top of board, like towards the top of the board, and then middle of board, let's say. Tell us what you got.
Yeah, so Eric, you mentioned it, the fade list. It might start with Russell Henley for me because, quite frankly, the guy doesn't win. He is like a baseball pitcher. We always talk about positive regression, which is one of those oxymorons in this industry that makes sense, yet it doesn't really make sense. But Russell Henley, I always compare him to like a baseball pitcher, a major league pitcher who's like 9-13 with a 2.83 ERA. And you're like, was he good? Was he bad? Like the performance was good, but the win-loss record wasn't. And so the team didn't play for him. The team's got to start playing for Henley, but he doesn't win golf tournaments. As good as his ball striking is, as good as he plays on a regular basis, he doesn't win. So if I do want to get an investment in him, which I do this week because it's a great course for him, it's a great fit, I'm going to take him for a single round investment. He's got a career 68.9 round one scoring average at the Cognizant, 6 rounds of 68 or better in 10 attempts. That's on Thursdays. And so far this year, in a limited number of starts, he's got a 64 and a 66 in opener. So he's a guy that I like to target in that Thursday market, but not necessarily for 4 rounds. And then, I'm going much further down the board to a guy who led the field in Mexico last week in strokes gained on approach shots. I love that metric to look towards the next week. It just means that Henrik Norlander is firing on all cylinders. Again, not a guy that I want to necessarily target in the 4-round market. He's 0 for 3 trying to make the cut at PGA National, but for a single round investment, coming off a really good ball striking week, if he gets a couple of putts to roll in, he could be a guy that's sitting there at, it probably takes about 65, 66 this week.
EC, real quick on the Henrik Norlander play. The only reason I didn't play him, because I love this pick, is because he's in the afternoon. But again, I don't think that's a big deal on Thursday. With that said, he gained 10.25, like Jason said, strokes on approach, which is just crazy in Mexico. But that's not an outlier event for him. Like, I'm not saying Henrik Norlander is, like a top 20 golfer, but he spikes with approach, honestly, like 5-6 strokes per tournament. Like in other words, when he spikes with approach, he'll gain 5, 6, and again, last week, 10. I think he is like literally the prototypical first round leader play. And I love the number 125 to 1.
So coming up next, Sia, you're going to give us another geography lesson after we hear from one of our sponsors.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. A 16 beats a 1. From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
We're bringing back this Tuesday Best Bet show, and Sia's got to talk about geography among his matchups. So why don't you start us off with that pick? That's kind of an interesting one. Go for it.
Yeah, it's top Danish. I actually gave this out on the early edge yesterday, and so I'm just going to bring it to this show as well. I'll mention when it comes to matchups, I'll have round matchups on the early edge as well as we get closer to tee up on Thursday. Top Danish. So this is Denmark, unless I'm like crazy. I think this is basically Denmark players here, Danish players. Nikolaj Højgaard plus 160 I have as top Danish, and that is against Norgard and against Thorbjorn Olesen. I just think Højgaard is, I like him as sort of a long shot outright, which you'll find out later in the show. I think if he can control things off the tee, and we saw him get in contention last week, by the way, and then he just kind of faded on the back 9. But I think if he can control the ball off the tee, I think this guy is primed to contend here. And I just don't think Norgard really has the experience. Højgaard's played at this course before. I don't think Norgard's really there yet as it relates to Højgaard. And as far as Thorbjorn Olesen, he spikes here and there, but I just don't think he's a great course fit here. So Højgaard plus 160 against 2 other guys. I'm basically playing a 3-ball. It just happens to be all 3 guys from Denmark. I like this number plus 160. I mentioned on the early edge that this would be like a half a unit play. So take that for what it's worth. My other one, Denny McCarthy, we're going to talk about him all show, so I won't spend much time here. But even money against Taylor Pendrith. I love how Denny McCarthy's game's coming around. We'll talk about it. I think Pendrith is going to find some trouble with this course.
So, Patrick, if I remember correctly, Benny On is one of your favorites, and I guess Sung J M, is one of my least favorites. Well, based on my auto fade list. So, why don't you start there?
I don't know where you got that Benny On was one of my favorites, but I guess yes this week. At plus 145 over Sung J M, I'll take Benny On. Both these guys, let's be honest, both these guys are not playing good golf. Both their approach numbers are pretty bad. I think Sung Jae was probably one of the more disappointing players there on the West Coast swing over the last month after getting off to a decent start. And although he's won here, the history has been great. Benny On's played this golf course well. And I think at that price tag, you got to lean Benny. So I'm going to take him at plus 145. And then Davis Thompson minus 105 over Minwoo Lee. Hand up, I have a ton of capital invested in the Thompson stock. As is, early returns have been poor in 2025, but the diamond hands, we got a little return there at the Genesis Invitational with the 36-hole lead before, he tied Scotty Scheffler on Saturday there. If you want to look at that, glass half full. Unfortunately, it was both 76s. But his iron play took a step. He got a FaceTime lesson on the range before that week. Iron play, he gained on approach for the first time all year. And so these guys kind of do the same things well, right? Good short game, great drivers. I think Thompson's iron play is going to be better than Minwoo Lee's. And so I'll take that at minus 105.
All right, Jason, I'm looking at your picks this morning. And I'm going, oh, man, Keith Mitchell and Cam Young, two staples of my auto fade list. How do you pick one? Well, I guess the one at plus money seems like a good bet.
Okay. So I'm with you on one of these. Cam Young might be the captain of my auto fade team, my own personal auto fade team. I just don't play Cam Young until I see better results from him, until I see he can win. It's just, for the most part, he's not a play for me. Keith Mitchell, I've been driving the Keith Mitchell bandwagon for years now. I can't tell you how much money I've lost betting on Keith Mitchell nearly every single time he tees it up. You know why? Because I've done it. I'm already pot committed. So then he goes out and plays the next week, and I'm like, well, I don't want to miss the Keith Mitchell week, so let me get after Keith Mitchell again. He's won this golf tournament. The ball striking numbers over the last year and a half have been almost as good as any player on the PGA Tour. I don't know what it takes for Keith Mitchell to go out there and put up some really good results. But I'm still going to keep driving that bandwagon. I think it's going to happen. If you just look at him, if you put a bag over everybody's head and put him on the range, and you watch Keith Mitchell hit the ball, you'd say that's a top 15, top 20 player in the world. Hasn't materialized, but I'm not giving up hope for Kashmir Keith. I still think it's going to happen. I know we probably got some casuals watching us right now, and I don't mean any offense by that. We love the diehards. We love the people that are betting every single week, doing their own research and studying. But I know we've probably got some people on here who are like, I don't know, like golf betting. I'll get into it. I don't really know much. And they see my pick here of Ryan Gerard at something less than plus money over Jordan Spieth, and they're thinking, well, no, I know Jordan Spieth. That guy's really good. I don't know this Gerard guy. He's only minus 105. What are we doing here? Gerard was, of course, tied for fourth place at this event 2 years ago. He's at 3 top 20s in 5 starts so far this year, and Jordan's not there yet. The wrist is still hurting. He had off-season surgery. His game isn't quite there. I still think it's a positive, the fact that Jordan contended the WM Phoenix Open a few weeks ago without his best stuff. I think that's a good sign moving forward. I'm still more bullish than bearish on Jordan when it comes to long-term play, but it ain't going to happen this week. And I believe his Cognizant debut. Then the other one there, Billy Horschel. I'm going to have a lot of Billy Horschel talk on the show coming up, but this is basically the Florida play. And we all know that whatever sport, as long as you're betting an outdoor sport, you bet the elements, whether it's, hey, it's going to be cold in a football game, I'm going to fade the quarterback's passing yards, whatever it might be. You're betting elements. In golf, you're doing that more so than any other sport. And so I'm looking at Patrick Rogers, a West Coast guy who plays well in some of those events at the beginning of the year. And I am fading him now and taking Billy Horschel, whose record, quite frankly, isn't as good as it could or should be in his home state. But I still think Billy Horschel has a lot of value this week.
All right, we have a question in the chat from Michael, and it's about regions. So, of course, I turn to you for everything that's related to regions. So he likes Danny Willett, and I'm looking here. He's 14-1 to be the top UK and Ireland player that includes Shane Lowry, Harry Hall, Seamus Power, Matt Wallace, and Paul Waring. At 14-1, is there value, or are you staying away?
That's tough. I mean, the top, I think you said Harry Hall, Shane Lowry. I can't remember the name you said after that, but if you were, I mean,
Seamus,
he's kind of flashed here and there. This is what I'll say about Danny Willett. I mean, it's 14-1. I don't think I still don't think I would take that bet because I don't think he's going to beat all those guys. I'd almost prefer to play Danny Willett, and I'm not looking at it right now, in the top 40, or if you wanted to get a little bit more daring because you're going for 14-1, maybe the top 20 market, which again, I also don't think is going to happen. But I will say this about Danny Willett. The off the tee game over the last 4 tournaments, he's gained off the tee in 4 in a row. The putter he's gained, and I'm going off memory here because I recently looked at it. I think he's gained 3 out of 4 with the putter. The approach play has been relatively neutral. So, and I believe at the Farmers, T9. So, I mean, I get why the question is being asked. And I also get somebody wanting to take him as a long shot in the T10 or T20 market. But as far as this specific question, top English player, I'd probably be out, even though 14-1 is appetizing.
All right, Patrick, I saw on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that you were out at the TGL the other week. When you watch players play there, does that affect you when betting them? Like Cam Young's draining 30-footers, you're like, all right, I got to bet him at the Cognizant now. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely not. No.
Really?
No, absolutely not.
So it's Family Feud.
Absolutely
Right,
not.
So you're telling me, wait, and Jason, chime in as well here. So if a guy plays well hitting into the screen and his short game is good with the wedges and the putting around the green, dropping bombs, that doesn't give you some confidence heading into a tournament?
Absolutely not.
No, especially with the some of the issues they're having with the tech right now too.
It's like watching Aaron Judge in batting practice and you see him hit a bunch of home runs. You're like, oh, I'm going to bet him for a home run this game. It has nothing to do with anything.
I will say this, that I saw Ludwig play in January out. There I was like, all right, he's in good form. I'm going to bet him at the Farmers. We all know what happened there. I said after, he withdraws from Torrey or from Pebble. Can't bet him the next time at Torrey. Sia does. I don't. That's why Sia wins. And, well, I don't want to finish that next part of the sentence. All right. Let's move on to finishing positions. All right, Patrick, we'll start with you. You talked about this lefty, Joe Highsmith, earlier in the show. You're rolling with him at top 40. Why?
Yeah, plus 130 is a pretty nice price. T25 last week in Mexico. And like I said, it's kind of given outside maybe the top 10-ish players in this field. A little FedEx Cup fall feel to it, right? And Highsmith was awesome during that stretch. I think he's on his way to returning to that form. The ball striking has been really good. It's really just been the putter that hindered him. So hopefully the switch to Bermuda continues that form, and a top 40, I think, is real doable. And then Sia talked about Lee Hodges, just real well-rounded so far this season. And he's picked off a couple top 10 finishes already. He's picked off a couple top 20 finishes at this tournament. You look at where his win was a few seasons ago now. 3M Open, that's a golf course with a lot of water, a lot of trouble. I know it's not in the area at all, but maybe some similarities there also. So at plus 105, I'll take him for top 40 also.
See, you also like Lee Hodges. I think a lot of us like Lee Hodges. We'll talk about him plenty throughout the rest of the show, but why are you playing top 40 and not higher?
Well, you'll see that I'm playing him higher too as we get later in the show. But here's the thing, because I'm getting basically even money or better, I'm totally okay with that. I think playing him top 20, this is a potential ladder play if you want to do it. Just like you would ladder a wide receiver prop in an NFL game. You could play the top 40 for a unit. You could play the top 30 for 0.5 units and play the top 20 for 0.3 units or whatever you want to do. Or you don't even have to start with a 1 unit on the top 40. My point is, I like Lee Hodges, and I think this number, again, I think his DFS price is wrong, and I have to qualify that. Anybody can get in trouble on this course. So Lee Hodges can get in trouble too, but he's 7,300 in DFS. He's a plus 105 to top 40. And all he's done is marry the ball striking with the putting, and we see it with the finishing position. So again, it's a small-ish sample size, but I like what I see. And speaking of smallish sample sizes, Bud Cauley's really coming on. Like, he is really coming on. Look at the metrics. This guy has been pretty much on fire. The putter can be a problem. I'll have to concede that. But the short game and the ball striking has been really good. Now, he hasn't played a ton. He's played a few times this year. Some of the metrics that I'm looking at date back to last October and November. But nonetheless, Bud Cauley has good experience on this course, and he's got really good recent form. He lives in this area. Really like Bud Cauley to flash in DFS, but also in the top 40 market, plus 110.
Jason, the last time we saw Luke Clanton, he was out in my neck of the woods in Scottsdale, just missed the cut on Friday, didn't get his PGA Tour card, gets a tournament exemption into the Cognizant Classic, and you're going big, top 10 at plus 375?
I am. Look, I have been shocked over the last year. Whenever Luke Clanton plays in PGA Tour events, he is completely overvalued. I mean, he is double or half the number of Nick Dunlap, who's the same age and is already a two-time PGA Tour champion. And I get it. Luke Clanton's really good. And I guess the public wants to bet him, but I have not been impressed with his numbers, which are way too short on a regular basis. Finally, after the WM Phoenix Open a few weeks ago, where he could have, if he had made a birdie putt on the final hole on Friday afternoon, gotten his PGA Tour card, or at least clinched it moving forward through PGA Tour U. Finally, that number looks okay. He's 50-1 in the outright markets. I'm not going to bet him outright, but for a top 10, I think this is the week back in Florida. He's a Florida State kid, and I think the number is finally at a place for the first time in a year where it should be on Luke Clanton. The other one for a top 40, and I will throw in the fact that Sia, it was between this guy and Bud Cauley for my top 40 play. I wrote up Bud Cauley in my weekly preview this week, so I really like that play a lot. I'm going to go with Sam Ryder for very much the same reason that I talked about Billy Horschel a few minutes ago. Going from the West Coast to Florida is a bump up for Sam Ryder, who grew up here in the Orlando area. He's already 5 for 5 making the cut so far this year, 4 of 4 making the cut at PGA National. That's that nice convergence of form and history that we like at any tournament, any week. And oh, by the way, his last 3 results at this golf course, 8th, 9th, and 21st. Yeah, absolutely. Hammer him for a top 40.
Sign me up. That sounds great. Now, see, my thing is, guys, you're all playing top 40s now. Sobel, I'll give you credit. You played a top 10, so that's good. I like to be a little bit more aggressive. If you watched this show last year, you know I like to throw some darts here. That Ryan Gerard play that Jason put out earlier, top 20, and you got to play these with ties. That's the key here, plus 275. 4 for 4 and made cuts this year as he returns from the Korn Ferry Tour. The last 2 are top 20s, and he's been positive against the field on approach and with the putter. And as Jason said earlier, solo 4th here in 2023 in his only appearance, gained nearly 7 on approach and 2.5 with the putter. Good enough for me for a top 20, getting this kind of a number.
Mm-hmm.
How about Jake Knapp? So last year, he won in Mexico. Patrick had him at, 65-1. I had never heard of Jake Knapp.
300, I think.
Oh, come. Whatever. He was a big number.
Maybe 500.
Yeah, of course. He was a big number. He wins in Mexico. He comes over here to the Cognizant Classic, and he goes T4 on debut. It's pretty awesome. So I'm going top 20. That's a fairly, competent area here, plus 320. Gain strokes on approach in 5 straight tournaments, including 4.8 last week in Mexico, his season best. Now, I needed him top 20 last week, and he cost me by finishing T25. So you know what? He's going to pay it forward to me this week at plus 320. This is what you have to do. He was close last week. This week, he gets it done at plus 320, feeling fairly confident. Just looking over at the chat, a couple that I want to get to. David Talk says Minwoo and Berger top 20. You'll see why we like those in the next segment. A few of us are on those. And Rick wants to mention that M Squared's model has Minwoo number 1, and he would look at a top 10 or 20 for Minwoo. So appreciate Rick chiming in. As always, glad to have you back watching the early wedge. Coming up next, it's time for the Do Not Bet list and our outrights after we hear from one of our sponsors.
I feel home when I see the faces that remember my own. When I'm with my friends, I feel home.
All right, here we go. This is the list that I know Joe in the chat has been waiting for 6 months. The auto fade list has expanded this year. I'll go quickly here. Adam Scott hasn't won in 5 years. I know Patrick's a big fan. He's not going to win. Jason talked about Cam Young. He's not winning. Keith Mitchell's lost too many people enough money. We don't bet him to win. Matt Fitzpatrick. He won the major and he won in a playoff near Patrick in South Carolina. He's not winning this year. Patrick Cantlay always loses me money. He's definitely a staple of this list. Ricky Fowler looks like he's toast for now, so we're not betting him. Sahith is fine in TGL, not betting him. So Shane Lowry last year won the team event with Rory. That doesn't count, so I made sure that we're not going – that if that happens this year, he's not going to win in the U.S., so we're not worried about that. Sung Jae doesn't win. Talked about that earlier. Tommy Ladd, that's one of Patrick's favorites. We know he does not win in the United States. And, of course, Victor Hovland, former FedEx Cup champion, he just doesn't look right. And you know what? For the rest of the year, until he proves me wrong, I'm not betting him. So this is a pretty good list. Sia, who is the first one of these players, in your opinion, that is going to get crossed out and win this year?
I mean, just based on you presenting this list right here, right now, I feel like we're looking at a 3-person playoff with Cameron Young, Keith Mitchell, and one of Sung J M or Shane Lowry, and one of them's going to win. But I would probably go with, I mean, it's the easy, chalky answer. I mean, Shane Lowry is better than and is in better form than everybody on this list right now. So Shane Lowry, I think, is the most likely to win first.
Patrick, last year, I put Scotty Scheffler before March. I put him at anything under 10-1 that he was on the auto fade list, and he proceeded to win 6 times after that. Then I added Xander Schauffele, and he proceeded to win 2 times. Who's going to be this year's recipient of, oh, crap, why did EC put me on this list?
I kind of think it's Shane Lowry. Really? I think Shane Lowry could maybe win a major championship this year.
Wow. Jason, what do you think?
Shane said the other day he likes 3 of the 4 major championship venues. I think Quail is the one that he doesn't quite love. I am, at the risk of having people not tune in next week, for giving my API pick like 8 days ahead of time. Tommy Fleetwood's winning at Bay Hill next week.
No.
First time ever in the States. Book it right now.
Let's go.
Wow.
Okay.
Golf course, give me a ball striker. He's in form. Had a couple of good starts. He was 5th at the Genesis just a couple of weeks ago. It's finally going to happen. Tommy wins on U.S. soil.
Nobody's beating Scotty Scheffler next week. If they do, if Tommy wins, it's going to be an embarrassing cross out only 2 weeks into the show. All right, let's get
EC, wait.
Yeah,
let's do an over-under 2.5 players from this list win this year.
Oh, under. I mean, obviously 0 of 11 are going to win. All right, but I just want to point. All right, so over under. See, what are you taking?
Maybe
over
3.5. Honestly,
I would take. I mean, what's the line? Is it?
Let's do 3.5.
I mean, I'm taking the under easy there.
Really?
Shane could win. Patrick Cantlay could win. I don't see anybody else winning. I don't see Adam Scott winning. I don't see Victor Hovland winning this year. Maybe next year.
I think I'm going over.
Over. Easy over. What? Cantlay, Thigala, Sanjay, Tommy.
Thigala's interesting. Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
Yeah. I see at least 11 on this list.
This is going to be a clean list the entire season.
Okay, so
add to it. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, just officially, Patrick, I know Jason is on the over. Patrick, are you on the over 3.5 or the under?
I want the alt line over 10.5.
So you're on the over. So we have to come up, and maybe the chat and social media can help us. We have to have stakes on this, not literal stakes, but like something going. Me and EC are on one side, Patrick and Jason Sobel on the other side. Somebody come up with something embarrassing for Patrick and Jason to do, or maybe to give us for losing this bet. Thank you.
All right. That's fair. We will. This will be discussed. Doesn't have to be this week if we don't come up with anything good enough. But next week, when this list is perfectly clean, we'll roll with it. All right, let's move on to outrights. Patrick, we're going to start with you and your boy, Denny McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, you're just calling everyone my favorites this week. Benny on, Tommy Fleetwood, Denny McCarthy. Denny is, to be fair, so you did get that one right. 40-1. I really like the way the iron play is looking so far. And like I mentioned, on the West Coast swing on maybe some golf courses you wouldn't expect from him, he got himself in contention. He had the lead with 12 holes to go at the Genesis Invitational there at Torrey Pines after you made eagle on number 6. Just really didn't make much over the weekend. The driver wasn't awesome, but if he straightens that out, I think he has a really good chance to win. And then Davis Thompson, I'm just all in on this kid. I said he was going to make the Ryder Cup team over the offseason. I said he was going to win this year. And so the uptick with the iron play, playing himself into the mix there at Torrey Pines in a big boy field, coming back to the East Coast, 40-1. I just think he's a lot more talented than some of the guys around him, and honestly, some of the guys above him on the board. So I'm going to go with him too.
Sia, you're a great team player in that you have synergy with both Patrick and Jason and me. So I guess start off with Denny McCarthy and then talk a little Daniel Berger.
I mean, Denny, for all the reasons Patrick said. I mean, the thing about Denny is if you look at his long-term form and how he rates out on this course, like in my modeling, he doesn't rate out well at all. But I do feel like he's trending really well if you look at kind of more short-term stuff, especially with what Patrick or Jason referred to in his approach play recently. And I think he's gaining off the tee a little bit too, more so than he used to as well. So I just think Denny in this field is primed to potentially win. I really like the number at 40-1 because, again, the guys at the top, you got Henley at the top, Sungjae at the top. We'll leave Shane Lowry on the side because I do think Shane Lowry could potentially win. But I just think Denny is in a class that belongs in the Henley and Sungjae conversation, and he's not for whatever reason. So 40-1 is a great price. Daniel Berger's just trending really well. Like, he's finally healthy. Speaking of gaining a little bit more off the tee, Daniel Berger's doing that. The last couple of tournaments, the putter has been 3 out of the last 4. The putter's been good, but the ball striking really good. He's from this area, familiar with the Bermuda and all those things. I just think Daniel Berger at 28-1. I don't think it's a steal number, but I do think Daniel Berger is primed to win. And Sepp Straka is a winner. Like, if his name wasn't Sepp Straka and his name was Patrick Cantlay, we'd be salivating over this number at 28-1, but his name is Sepp Straka. So we continue to kind of overlook this guy, and he has some bad finishes too, and he might miss the cut. But when he's in the conversation on Sunday, he tends to close, and that's what we're looking for. And there's a lot of people that are more talented than Sepp Straka that don't close on Sunday. So give me the 28-1 there as well.
Jason, you're also, I mean, you and I agree in your first time on the show working with me. I mean, I don't know if this is a good thing and we're going to crush it this week or not so good, but talk about Berger and Lee Hodges.
I don't even know you that well yet, Eric, and I don't like being on the same side as you on any of this. Way back in the early days of my career, I was Chris Berman's producer back at ESPN, and Boom's famous for whenever they go to all the experts on the panel and they say, who do you like, the Bills or the Ravens? And they all like the Bills. They're all on the Bills. And then, and of course, the team that nobody picks usually winds up winning. We're all on Daniel Berger this week. So other than Patrick. So I don't know that I like that. It maybe feels too easy. That said, Berger's a guy that I've had circled here for a while. Sometimes I start doing my research on Saturday, Sunday, going into the week. And there are times on Monday when the odds come out and I'm like, oh, man, I don't know. It might be him, might be there. This was one of those weeks where I've had Daniel Berger circled for this one for a long time. In fact, I almost faded him a few weeks ago at the WM Phoenix Open just because I wanted to save him for Florida. I'm glad I did. I had him for a top 5 that week, and he wound up in second place for the second time in his last 6 starts. So Berger's a guy that loves the spotlight. A home game isn't necessarily a winner for a lot of players. You got to get tickets for people. You're playing in front of friends and family. Berger likes showing off in front of people. So I think this one makes a whole lot of sense. He's got 2 top 5s in his last 3 starts at PGA National, and a lot of that's when he was dealing with injuries. So I think he makes a ton of sense. Horschel, I've talked about already. 50-1 is a really good number for a guy who's won 8 times on the PGA Tour. Ball striking has been pretty good, not great, but again, gets a bump going back to Florida, and he's motivated. He has talked very openly about trying to win for the first time in Florida. He does not want his career to end without winning in his home state, wants to do that gator chomp on the final green. And then Lee Hodges, there's been a lot of Lee Hodges talk on this show. 75-1 is a nice number. I talked about it earlier, nice convergence of both form and history for Hodges at this one.
Sia, since you're you're the cultured one, and we haven't done any singing or anything on this show yet, what is your favorite fast food burger that we're going to be celebrating when Daniel wins on Sunday?
You know that I'm going to answer this question in a way that you're not going to like, because I actually don't eat burgers anymore. I eat like turkey burgers.
Okay.
But I used to eat burgers, and I honestly, my reason for not eating them is not like anything crazy. It's like kind of like a silly thing I decided I was going to do like 20 years ago. Story for another day. Cheeseburger, like a classic cheeseburger with maybe provolone. But if you're asking like a fast food type sandwich, I know we're talking about burgers, but like, because I don't have a
provolone.
Yeah, you heard me. Provolone.
That's classic to you?
I don't care if it's classic or not. That's what tastes the best to me.
Okay.
The best like fast food or chicken burger type cuisine is Wendy's Ranch Asiago Chicken Club. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I say that with a wife and 2 kids. It is a delicious sandwich. Go check it out. Wendy's is not a sponsor.
Provolone. All right, Patrick, what do you got? What best burger?
I'm a simple man. You give me a double cheeseburger from McDonald's, and I'm
Come
happy.
on. That's a terrible answer.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, what do you got?
And that is sponsored.
Contract's up. I'm off the show. I got to get out of here. No, look, I am like Sia. I'm on the Sia diet. I have lost 20 in the last 4 months.
Good
and I'm
for
trying
you.
to eat better and do the right thing. That said, if you put me on the West Coast right now, anywhere near an In-N-Out burger, I would get one of those double doubles right now.
And there you go. I mean, that's right. I live 3 miles from an In-N-Out. You guys probably don't have those on the East Coast. This is West Coast bias right here. I know you guys are missing out. Sia's not missing out. And Jason, you're probably not missing out as much because you're not eating those. Yeah, Patrick, I don't know about your it's kind of a McDonald's.
I mean, it's a family business. You know, you got to put it on the map when you can.
Hey, all right, I'm going to go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick shout out to David Bileski, who's a he might be a soccer capper, but he's really a talented golf capper in his own right. People from the First Cut might know him because he wrote some of the Strokes Gain narrative stuff that my wife Gigi ended up singing. With all that said, earlier in the chat, he said he likes Daniel Berger as well. That's a pretty solid endorsement coming from him. Just wanted to point that out for everybody.
All right. Well, David's
is
always
In-N-Out fast food?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
No.
What? Where do you live? What's happening?
I live in the North, man.
They don't have those on the East Coast?
They don't, but everybody knows about In-N-Out Burger. They don't have them on the East Coast, though, as far as I know.
No.
I thought it was like more like a Five Guys.
We have those too. I've only eaten at Five Guys one time. I live right around the corner from a Five Guys one time. All right, let me get to my picks here. I like burger. Nothing more that needs to be said there. Lee Hodges, Jason talked about him a little bit. Runaway winner of the 3M Open in 2023. A course full of water like this one. Hey, he has 2 top 10s in 5 events this year. So we know he's in good form. And then I'm doing it. I'm going Minwoo Lee, who could have been on the do not bet list. But I'm going to take a shot here with Minwoo at plus 3,500. Listen, he was T2 on debut last year, gaining more than 6 shots on approach. And he had 3 top 20s worldwide to open his 2025. But can he close? That's the big question. Plus 3,500? Yeah, I mean, considering the top of board doesn't win a heck of a lot more than he does, yeah, I'll take my shot there. All right, let's go on to long shots. Sia, I'm going to start with you here. I'm kind of disappointed. You're going with the guys that, Lee Hodges. Sobel and I gave out Lee Hodges here, and you're giving him out in long shots. I mean, it's plus 7,500. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple other names I could have sprinkled in here. Like, I think this is going to sound crazy. Jacob Bridgman is a fun one at like crazy triple-digit odds. Ryan Gerard is a good one in this sort of 70, 80 to 90 range. But Lee Hodges, like, I don't need to belabor the point on him. I like him at 75 to 1. I think Nikolai Højgaard is sort of discount Minwoo Lee, and I'm getting 20 points longer at 55 to 1. And oh, by the way, like his approach play, I mean, his off the tee play is great. I mean, he's got to, make sure he doesn't find water and all those things. He's gained on approach. I'm looking at it now in 2, 4, at least 6 tournaments in a row. The short game can kind of be very hit or miss. Putter tends to be relatively neutral. I think Nikolai Højgaard is not getting the credit he deserves from a talent standpoint. And oh, by the way, you might have seen, it was Alex Smalley that I tweeted out for a live play last week. But Højgaard was sort of in the conversation last week, early on Sunday or early in that round on Sunday, and he kind of faded. This guy has upside to be there on Sunday.
Yeah, he was also going to be. Go ahead, Jason. Yeah,
sorry, Eric. I just can we set some parameters? If we're going to be doing this show all season, we were going to pick long shots every single week. Can we set some parameters on what a long shot is? Yes. I feel like, Sia, I love you, man, but 55 to 1, that is not a long shot in my book.
Well, so here's the problem. It's a totally fair point. Now, I have been on record saying long shots are greater than 50 to 1, but I like your plays better than mine. in terms of like what a long shot actually is. But I didn't want to put too many outrights. I didn't even know how many outrights were allowed on the outright board. I wanted to put all 5 of these on that last slide, and then maybe one at like 125 to 1 on this slide. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out. But I actually agree with you. This isn't super fun from a long shot standpoint. Jason, point taken.
All right, but Jason, you're going long. I mean, Matteo Manacero, where are you coming up with the plus 200 here?
There's just value there. Look, the guy's found his game over the last year and a half, had a really good year on the DP World Tour last year. He's 3 for 3 making the cut on the PGA Tour so far this season. Do I love him this week? Am I putting him in every DFS lineup and I'm putting, the mortgage on him? No, of course not. But I think 200 to 1 is probably twice what that number should be. He should probably be 100 to 1 this week. And so I see some value there. And then Adam Schenk. Look, Adam Schenk was ready to go win his first PGA Tour title 2 years ago. He finished second twice. Came really close a couple of times and then sort of lost his game. He went 17 events in a row to end last year outside the top 40. I'm not sure. I haven't spoke with Adam in a while, and so I don't know exactly what was bothering him, but he's got it back. He's made 4 starts so far this year, 1 withdrawal, but the other 3 were all inside the top 25. I think Adam Schenk makes a lot of sense to get on early rather than late. We see Daniel Berger, who we've talked about throughout this entire show, a great example of a player who, at a point 6 months ago in the fall starts, he was a guy that had some value on him because he was still kind of returning from injury. I think Adam Schenk right now is a guy that we can jump on for finishing position bets, for long shot outrights, before the odds makers really understand that he's back and he's playing the same golf he was 2 years ago when he nearly won 2 events.
That's a sneaky play. I like it. Patrick, speaking of sneaky plays, I read your CBSSports.com article, your expert picks article, which I read every week, by the way. I'm a good soldier. Chris Ventura, where'd you come up with 158 to 1? That's kind of a random one.
Yeah, I found this one on the black market, but you look at his results this year. He's made 4 straight cuts. He finished T4 at the Farmers, T25 last week in Mexico. Just hitting the ball great, and the putter's coming along too. And so he lost his status, got it back this past season, looks much more comfortable out here. We see it time and time again. Sometimes it takes a couple goes for these guys to get comfortable on the PGA Tour. So I think he has a real chance to contend. Joe Highsmith, again, of course, at 110 to 1. But I forgot one. And I'm going to say this name, and you guys might throw me in home because you think I'm so crazy.
Joel Damon.
But there is a player in this field who won in 2023, who won in 2024, who gained strokes on approach last week, and who has made the cut in all 3 appearances at PGA National, and he's 500 to 1.
What?
His name is Davis Riley.
Wow.
So just let it marinate a little bit. Let it marinate a little bit. 500 to 1, Davis Riley.
It pays to watch live. We'll say that. All right, Patrick, we were talking before the show. We like to talk about other sports here and there. I like my parlays. So who's your college basketball team this year that you're following because Virginia Tech stinks?
The Drake Bulldogs.
So I feel like Drake would be the perfect add to this first parlay of Shane Lowry and Keith Mitchell top 10s. You need ties, first of all, with this. These are auto fades up top, but these guys probably will give you a cheap thrill at some point. And you're getting 13 to 1 with, those guys, almost 13 to 1. But if you throw Drake minus 8.5 tomorrow at Evansville on Wednesday, you're getting plus 25-34. Just going to throw that one in there. That might be the early wedge parlay of the week. And then this one you can find on FanDuel, their tournament specials. Daniel Berger, Taylor Pendrith, and Minwoo Lee top 20 at plus 1,300. I think there is some value there. Pendrith I'm a little concerned about, but does have a couple of top 10s this year, so take my chances at plus 1,300. All right, we're going to try something new on this Tuesday Best Bet show. It is time for one and done. We haven't done this before. Sia, Patrick, and I split a team in Rick's one and done league. We're doing a heck of a lot better than my individual team, which is struggling. So we'll talk about that after the show, who we're going to go with. But Sia, we're going to start off with you for your OAD pick this week. Who you got?
I got Sepp Straka because he's a winner. I'm just going to keep it at that. I mean, obviously he rates out well, approach, ball striking, all those things. Long iron play, mid to long iron play, checks those boxes. Good history here, obviously. He's, again, if his name was, would you rather have, here's my OAD question for Sepp Straka, because I don't think I'd really want to play him at some of these bigger purse events. Would you rather have Patrick Cantlay with a loaded field, or would you rather have Sepp Straka at a watered down field? Assume that they're both reasonably good course fits. My answer would be Sepp Straka, so I'll go ahead and take my swing right now.
All right, Patrick, we know you like Denny McCarthy, so anything to add?
Yeah, just mentally with all the one and done leagues that I'm in, I love all your picks, but it's like I use Shane Lowry at Pebble Beach, I use Sepp Straka at the American Express, I use Daniel Berger in Phoenix, and so I couldn't go that direction, and I had to go with Denny McCarthy instead.
I'm sure you had all those. Jason, I would have taken Berger here. I saw you on. You had to differentiate it here. So you're going 28-1. You're taking Berger as your OAD. You think he wins this week?
I do, and I've talked enough about Berger throughout the show and what he can do this week. So I'm going to tell a little Daniel Berger story. This is back when he was 13 years old, just starting to get into golf, and his dad was a world-class tennis player. In fact, he was captain of the Davis Cup team for the U.S., and his dad knew tennis but didn't know golf very well, and Daniel was starting to get into it. So they were at the Bears Club in South Florida, and his dad brought him into the pro shop and said, my kid wants to start playing some golf. I don't know if he's got any talent. Can you watch him? And the guy, Matt Doyle, who was the pro at the time, went out to the range and watched Daniel hit balls for about 5 or 10 minutes. You could tell this kid's got something. And he said, hey, do you want to go out and play around with me? And Daniel looked at him and said, what are we playing for?
Oh,
the 13-year-old saying that to the head pro who had just tried to make it on the PGA Tour a few months earlier. And Doyle looks at him and says, whatever you want. He goes, all right, let's do $20 closeouts. And Daniel that day did not beat Matt Doyle, but shot under par, made an eagle, and he got himself a job picking the range. And they said, as long as you pick the range, you can do whatever you want here, play every day. And that's exactly what he did. Grew up playing against PGA Tour regulars like Steve Marino. Marino took his iPod one day because he beat him and took it off the 13-year-old kid. But that said, just a cool story. Daniel Berger loves the action. We love the action. We love betting on Daniel Berger this week.
I'm embarrassed that I'm taking Shane Lowry. That was a great story, by the way.
Amazing.
I'm embarrassed that I'm taking Shane Lowry, but the guy has 3 top 5s in his last 3 appearances here. I mean, if I'm ever going to use him, he's banned everywhere else in my book. I know you're going to play him. Good luck. If you want to play him at a major in a one and done, go for it. I'm definitely not doing that. Give me the live guys in the majors. I'm not staying away from Shane. So I'll go Shane Lowry as my OAD. All right, let's bring up the recap screen. We have producer Josh done a great job this year. Look at this recap screen that we have. I'm not going to read all of it because this is crazy. To give you guys a chance to read through this, I want to ask a question to the panel. This is a big week for PGA Tour off the course. You have the new season of Full Swing, Season 3, and you have the new video game, PGA Tour 2K25. So, Sia, I'm going to start with you. I pretty much know the way this is going to go. Which one are you most excited for?
I don't get to play video games anymore because I'm doing all these shows, including one tomorrow at 10:30 after the early edge. We have a live chat with Rick Gehman, me, and Patrick. I can't even remember who the third person is. It might not be Patrick because he's not nodding his head.
Gonna have to find out.
No, the Netflix. That's where I'll be. I'll watch, but I'm not playing the video game.
Patrick, you got to be a video game. You got to play golf video games, no?
Absolutely not. No. And I've already seen the Netflix, so I'm looking forward to the PGA Tour, baby.
Jason, help me out here. Am I going to be the only one on Video Game Island?
Yes, you are. Funny. First of all, when you said there's some other things happening in golf right now, I thought we were going in a different direction. I can think of some other big things happening in golf that don't involve video games or Netflix shows. That said, I probably won't play the video game unless someone literally walks up, puts it in my PlayStation and turns it on and, hands me a controller. Other than that, I'm probably not doing it myself. The Netflix show, and I talked about this, I was hosting PGA Tour Radio, hosted the starter this morning, and I said about the Netflix show, this is a me problem, not a them problem, but it's kind of like when people ask me for golf book recommendations. I'm like, I live golf. I mean, I'm writing about it, I'm reading about it, I'm talking about it all the time. When I get a few free minutes, I kind of want to get away from golf, not jump more into it. And so, I'll probably watch it at some point, but I'm not diving in tonight because I was there. I lived it. I don't know. We all did.
So you and Patrick probably making cameos in there, I would assume.
No, my fee was too high.
No, I've been sent a screenshot already from some buddies. So, yeah, I'm in
Hey,
there.
With that in mind, Jason, so are you really in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so can we just we have a lot of picks every show. We have 5 shows a week and all of this, but for this show, I mean, that Jason Sobel, Daniel Berger story was so good. Like, can we reserve a little bit of time for, like, it doesn't even have to be oh, that's the screenshot. That's amazing.
That is me on Netflix there. Wow. So now you don't have to watch the show. You've seen all the good stuff there.
There's a lot of cool, like Patrick McDonald interviewed Derek Jeter, like 3 weeks ago, was it? Like we got to at least reserve like 3 or 4 minutes for story time per show. I'm just throwing it out there. There's too much gold here.
I think it's the end of show. We'll have story time as this screen holds up here. And yes, I did do a shot with Charles Barkley during the golf off season out here in Scottsdale. Yes.
You drink him under the table?
So Barkley comes over and he sits down because we had seen him there at this place where we were before. And he sits down next to us. And my buddy goes, "Hey, you want to do a shot?" Now, I'm not much of a drinker. I don't think that surprises anybody. And we say, "Yeah, that's fine." He says, "Yeah." And he picks out this tequila that I've never heard of. We ends up taking the shot, get a nice photo up. Great. We go to pay the bill. We said, "Yeah, we'll take care of it." Yeah, whatever. He tips the waitress $100. Awesome. So 5 hours later, we go to pay the bill. $45 shot of tequila. What happened? I just want the cheap stuff. I don't know the difference. $45.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one. We have a couple more minutes here for story time. 2009. I'm playing a tournament up in Connecticut. There's a bunch of celebrities there. Barkley's in the field. I go out afterwards. I talked to Barkley because I was sitting down with Tiger the next day. This is when they were still buddies. And so Michael Jordan was there. Charles Barkley was there. I got them to give me questions to ask Tiger the next day. That said, Barkley might have been a little overserved on the course. Little kids were coming up to him as he's getting into his car service to get back to the airport. And I think they'd given him a set of clubs because all these kids are coming up saying, "Hey, Mr. Barkley, can I get an autograph?" He's like, "Nah, man, you get a 7-iron. Mr. Barkley, can I get an autograph?" "Nah, man, you get 3 wood." and he gave away all his clubs from the bag.
What a legend. He's a guy, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the group behind him at a golf course out here. I mean, just the guy's a cool guy, but that doesn't surprise me with Chuck. He's a character. He did offer us pizza, if that's it may not be a 7-iron, but his pizza at a restaurant. All right. I'm not a video game player in general, but the golf video game, the last time it came out, actually helped my handicap because when I went to play after playing the video game, I shot one of the best scores I've ever shot in the low 80s because, you get the whole rhythm of swinging makes a difference. So for me, I'm buying the video game. I need to lower the handicap, and it's honestly cheaper than going to a golf pro. So I'm going to roll with it. Guys, it has been an awesome show. Glad to be back on Tuesdays with this Early Wedge crew. Once again, if you're watching on the Sportsline YouTube channel, you're in the right place. If you're watching on the Golf on CBS channel, the show will be simulcasted there for the next few weeks, but be sure to subscribe to our Sportsline channel and please like this video. Thanks to producer Josh, who did a phenomenal job with these graphics. For Jason Sobel, Patrick McDonald, and Sia Nejad, I am Eric Cohen. And as I always like to say, let's hit it big. Good luck.